reactive lymphadenopathy. When you talk of lymphadenopathy, you're thinking of enlarged lymph nodes. You check when we do general exam, you check for pallor, you check for jaundice, you check for finger clubbing, you check for edema, and you check the vital signs. One of the other things that we always check is lymphadenopathy. And you look at various areas to see whether they're enlarged lymph nodes. Like, for example, in the neck, cervical region, supraclavicular, that is above the clavicle. You check at the axilla, you check at the inguinal region. Those are some of the areas that we check for enlarged lymph nodes. And so when you talk about lymphadenopathy, you're talking about, disease that is affecting the lymph node. Most of the time, a lymph node that is affected by whatever condition will be enlarged. So when we talk about reactive lymphadenopathy, most of the time we are thinking about infection, or you can be thinking also about metastatic carcinomas or cancers that get into the lymph node. As we said, one of the ways of spread of cancer cells is through the lymphatic system. Of course, another one is through the blood hematogenous system, among others that we talked about in pathology 1. So one of the things that when you talk about reactive lymphadenopathy, it could be infection or it could be metastatic cancer cells affecting that particular lymph node. So you can have follicular hyperplasia. We talk about the follicles in the anatomy that we looked at the lymph node. There was the follicles. So in this case, and we know what hyperplasia is. So basically, there is increase in the number of those cells. So enlarged reactive germinal centers, and visually this one reflects humoral B cell response. Remember, B cells are the ones that produce antibodies. So when there is that humoral or B cell response, there tend to be follicular hyperplasia within the lymph node. And then we can also have paracortical hyperplasia. Remember, in the lymph node, we talked about the hyperplasia. This is the expansion of paracortex, small follicles. So the follicles there are small, and it is usually cell-mediated, T cell. Remember, in the paracortex, that is where you'll find most of the T cells. So it is a cell-mediated or T cell response, and this one is common in viral infection. So if you have a viral infection with enlarged lymph nodes, if you are to examine that lymph node under the microscope, you'll find that the main place that there is hyperplasia will mostly be at the paracortical region. So there is parafollicular hyperplasia. Then there is sinus histiocytosis or sinus hyperplasia. In this case, there is prominent histiocytes lining sinuses. So they are macrophages. Histiocytes also will be referring to macrophages. So there are a lot of macrophages lining the sinuses. Sinuses are those spaces within the lymph nodes. So this one is common in nodes that are draining carcinoma. So mainly where there is metastatic carcinoma coming into that particular part. So if you have, for example, a carcinoma of the breast and it is draining into the axillary lymph nodes, if you are to take that axillary lymph node and prepare it and look at it under the microscope, you will find mostly the sinuses are the ones that are hyperplastic, or there is sinus hyperplasia. And then you probably will be able to see the malignant cells also there.